Okay, so this is something simple, easy, and very accessible that you can use to empower yourself. You know what I'm saying? Once you know your history, you're gonna know your heritage. You know, right now we're stuck on a history that's not even 100% accurate, but we're stuck on a history that starts in 1492 when they can trace humans, or they can trace black people or whatever, that go back to like 300,000 years ago. You know, that go back to 60,000 years ago, 50,000, you know what I'm saying? And we're only following this 400-year history when there's evidence that we're way older than that. So what was we doing in 11,000 BC? You know, what was we doing in 1392? You know what I'm saying? What was we doing before this so-called slave trade happened? You know what I'm saying? And those are the things that you can use to empower yourself. And for some reason, you know, I notice a lot of people don't really like to go back that far, or they, you know, don't really have an interest in it. But what I'm telling you is that this is something that'll help you change your reality in the now. You know what I'm saying? Because when you can see yourself in these images, when you can see yourself in the things that these people are doing, you know what I'm saying? And I'll probably make a video to help you connect with what we were doing back then. But when you can see yourself in these people and realize, oh wow, that's just me. So this is what it did for me. When I realized that we were doing, like when we were naturally being ourselves, that we were doing the same things that like these great kings and emperors and conquerors and man, even just these regular everyday people. I'm amazed at how a lot of these everyday civilizations are, forget being a king. I'm amazed at some of the things that they could do because they could walk around naked, but they didn't have pedophilia. They could walk around naked, but they didn't have sexual assault. You know, we think we advance because I have this fancy camera I'm talking into, or we have laptops, phones, and computers, but we don't even know how to communicate properly. You know what I'm saying? We don't even know how to respect each other. We don't even know how to respect each other's privacy, bodies, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So I'm amazed at what they can do, you know? So I'm amazed at everything that they was doing. Not just what they was building, not just what they was conquering, not just how much gold and riches they had. I'm just amazed at how they could live their everyday life. And another thing that it did was give me an understanding that if it was possible then, it could be possible now. And whatever that they was doing back then, maybe it's just things that we need to implement now in order to be a lot closer to, you know, being peaceful or whatever people are looking for in life. It definitely started to empower me and make me feel more powerful, seeing how connected I was to these great people. You know, because right now we're in school, a connection was built between us and the same faces, basically from the civil rights era, you know what I'm saying? And it's a connection with this struggle and with this fight that you're in, like this on a hamster wheel, just constantly in this fight that you're going to lose, that you're in a disadvantage in, and you're never gonna prevail. And those are the only images that's kind of been fed to us. And that doesn't empower you in any way. That also doesn't give you anything to connect with personally. You know, what do you mean by that, Malik? Well, let me tell you. My family is from Jamaica, you know what I'm saying? Believe it or not, my grandparents may not even know who Martin Luther King is. Like, that might sound crazy to you, but because they never went to school and because, you know, they wasn't watching TV, no radio, no stuff like that, they really lived like how quote unquote indigenous people live. They might not even know who that is. And I'm not saying that to disrespect him. I'm saying that like the stuff that he was doing and what was going on and his struggles are technically not even a part of my story. You know, literally, they're not a part of my story. You know, they don't even know who he is. And we all have unique stories that we're not connecting to. We're just connecting to this one narrative that's been kind of given to us, you know. When I started doing my genealogy, you know, quote unquote, the spirit said, or the energy said, or God was leading me, whatever you want to say, told me to just Google my name, my last name, and Jamaica, you know, because I was trying to find more Crawfords. That's my last name. I found out that there was two towns in Jamaica that's now Portland, but it used to be Crawford Town. There was an old Crawford Town and a new Crawford Town. Now imagine probably the most popular island in the world. You know what I'm saying? And you find out that your family owned a whole village or a town or something. You know, that's what that just changed my life in itself. And I'm not special. I'm not saying that like I'm some descendant of some prince or some king or something like that, and I'm special and I'm here and you gotta listen to me because of that or nothing. No, don't take that what I'm saying. I'm saying that a lot of us have stories like this and they're just waiting for you to connect with them. You know, when I found out that instead of my grandparents and them coming from like slavery slavery and stuff, they come from owning tobacco farms. You know what I'm saying? They come from owning their own land and running their own businesses, you know, or they come from my other side, same thing, owning their own land, running their own businesses, you know. That started to change my perspective. It started to give me new life. It started to give me new meaning. It started to give me a better understanding of, like, you know, how far I could go in life because of what I'm coming from. Remember, your history is going to help dictate your heritage, you know, what you inherited, you know, literally, because those same people now live on in your DNA, in your cells and stuff, you know, so they're already a part of it. And just knowing that, it just woke something up in me. It's like, damn, I can't be mediocre, you know what I'm saying? Whatever I'm doing, I got to do it good, because look at where I'm coming from. That's why I encourage everybody to get into their own history as well as just research history in general. Because if you do enough genealogy to find out that your family is connected to this empire or this village or this tribe, and you just learn things about, you could just use that to empower yourself. You know what I'm saying? This is a free resource, besides maybe like buying books and stuff. But there's so many free videos and stuff like that. All you have to do is just be open to. Before I talked to any family members, all I did was show the drive in my actions, and the universe started leading me closer and closer. And then when I did start talking to family members, all it did was just connect the dots that the universe had already laid out for me. You know what I'm saying? So definitely get into that, because you want to move past this narrative that was given to us, because that's not really your story. Even if you're a quote traditional Black American, meaning your family is like from Georgia or something, that's still not even your story. You have your unique story. Even when your family does come from slavery, that's still not the end of your story. There's some people whose grandfather was a slave, but now they're like the third generation of getting their masters, got a car when they was 16, living in a nice house, about to be a homeowner at 22. You know what I'm saying? Why are we still stuck on this victim thing from back then? You know what I'm saying? Not to say you don't want to honor. You know, a lot of people can hear this stuff and because you're hearing it like this for the first time, you might overreact to what I'm saying. Not to say you want to honor or forget about that ancestor, but you know, that's not the end of your story. You know, your story is still being written. There was other parts after, you know what I'm saying? And there's parts before that. That's the part that we trying to, you know, open your eyes to, that your story ain't just this one little narrative of slavery and civil rights. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you Black American, but your family's from somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? You need to be getting into the history of where your family is really from, because that's your story, for real, for real. A lot of this stuff that was happening here, you know, the same people you always see, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, all these people, is not to say that they don't affect, what they did doesn't affect us, because obviously we live here, or they weren't beneficial to us in some way, but that's not technically really a part of your story. Your parents or your family might not have even been in this country yet. You know what I'm saying? You need to be in tune with what's going on with you, where you're from, and your family. And I bet you, once you start doing that, you're going to feel empowered. You're going to be like, oh, wow. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be connecting with another part of yourself, because your ancestors are just you. Remember, I said we're just our ancestors reincarnated. They live on in our cells. You know, the things that we pick up from our parents, they picked up from their parents and picked up from their parents. So really and truly, we doing the same shit that your 10 times back great-grandfather used to do. It's just slightly different because we in a different environment, and we products of our environment, you know. And this is the last part I want to add to this video before it gets too crazy long. Pause. That sounded crazy. It's not to walk around and be like, you know, we was kings and, you know, fill up ourselves with too much, like, pride and bravado and ego and stuff. But you know, some people really do descend from stuff like that. Like I just said, like my family had a town, you know, and I'm not the only person. A lot of other people share these same stories. A lot of other people, like, you will be surprised that you might find out when Jamaica, and when the British and the Maroons, or when the British and the people in Jamaica was negotiating the land and negotiating the name and all of that, you might be surprised that your uncle or your dad was involved. You know, that's gonna make you change completely your whole perspective on life. Like, oh shit, my dad was one of them niggas at the round table. And it don't just gotta be Jamaica, it could be Georgia, it could be Alabama, or whatever. Because in your mind, your grandfather was just a person on some plantation getting his ass kicked, you know what I'm saying, just getting whipped 24/7. But he might have been one of the people at the round table making big decisions, and you don't know because you never tapped in, you know. And he doesn't even have to be that type of person. He could have been in that other situation and still, like, you know, your family still turned out and added parts of their story. That was just one part. I keep hitting home on that. You know, you don't want to just live in that one area. There's things before that as well. So it's not just to walk around and say we was kings and we wore gold and we're from Egypt, or we're from whatever, place that we want to highlight, but you want to use that to empower yourself. So instead of just having this constant image of a slave, it would be better to have an image of a pharaoh in your mind. Because what would you rather be in today's day and age? Would you rather be the slave, or would you rather be the pharaoh? You know what I'm saying? And if you would rather be the slave, I really think you need to sit and question yourself about that. Because that's insane to me. But if you would rather be the slave, if you would rather fill your head up with images of being the slave, do what's best for you. I would rather be the emperor. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's a lie, I would rather pretend that I came from a king or something, because all that's mean is I'm destined to be a king. And what determines that is my thoughts. So if I just pretend and think that, then all I'm doing is making it more real. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a pretend even if it's not true. I'm gonna want it to be true. I'm gonna make it true. You know what I'm saying? Because all that's gonna do is empower me, while that other narrative, while that other ideology does not. So just to kind of wrap this video up, because how long are we at? 11 minutes. Yeah, so just to kind of wrap this video up, don't misconstrue what I'm saying. Like, I'm being disrespectful to, the things that have happened to us. I'm being disrespectful to, or pretending like what we've been through over the last 400 years hasn't been detrimental and it hasn't hurt us as a people. But what I am saying is that there's other parts to our story. Shit, you would be surprised some people you talk to who hasn't even been affected by that. And it sounds crazy, right? Who could possibly be black and melanated and never been affected by the things that we've been going through over the 400 years? There's people like that exist. I've met them. I talked to them, where they're just coming from generations and generations and generations of good shit, of some Fresh Prince of Bel-Air shit. Sometimes not that extravagant, but even if it's just regular middle class, they're coming from years of traditions of being successful, But we only get presented one kind of image, so we don't believe that these people exist. We think everybody's coming from this one struggle story. You know what I'm saying? You got to get that out of your mind, or you got to at least stop filling your head up with that one idea of yourself, because you're just giving yourself a bunch of negative programming. You want to fill your idea up with the head that you are a king or you are a queen. You know what I'm saying? Because one, to be a king means you go have to have a queen, and vice versa. So you already done found your partner. That checks one box. Then you're going to be treated like one, and the world is going to react to you like you want. So why wouldn't you want to fill your mind up with those types of imagery and images? Just not to walk around in your ego or whatever, but just to make yourself feel good. So then when it's time for you to try to think about something like, maybe I am going to start selling my paintings, or maybe I am going to put my best foot forward in this thing, you have more confidence, because you're like, I'm a king, I'm a queen, I can accomplish anything. You know what I'm saying? I'm a prince out here, I'm a princess, I could do whatever, I could get anything that I want. Now your thoughts are less limited, because you've empowered yourself. So I hope this video helps anybody, or gives you a new perspective at least, or help you gain understanding. Nothing I say is meant to be controversial. I'm just speaking from experience. Like I said, but a lot of people won't believe it, but when I was in school and stuff, I was one of the people who was hard on the whole like black struggle, and we gotta fight in the whole like Malcolm X kind of mindset and being militant and stuff like that. But I realized that wasn't serving me purposefully, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying anything wrong with it. I'm just saying it wasn't serving me in a positive way. And when I started to do more genealogy research, more about our history, and get more in tune with my ancestors and just our ancient history as a people, where we were living more of a positive life, I started to feel more empowered. I started to raise my thoughts. I started to feel better about myself and my last name and stuff like that. I started to feel more connected with myself. I started to feel more comfortable with myself. It was like an overnight process. It was, it didn't fix everything, but it was just another tool. It's another wrench I could put in the toolbox, and it's very useful. So get to it. If this video resonates with you, start researching history. Ask me if you want ask me if you want some books and stuff, or some people that you can watch to start getting more empowered. But start with your family, start with the country or the state or whatever you're from. Use your last name. Like, research it, look at the origins of it. Just start getting more in tune with your story. Program yourself with more than just what's been happening the last 400 years.